Then our main lead brought our second main lead in his house. He told our second main lead, "Come in. Please remember to take off your shoes." Then he thinks, why do I put myself into such situations? But what if he had wandered around and gotten himself into trouble? Then our pink-haired second male lead said, "But I don't seem to have any clothes." And again, he's a man acting like a woman. It's a BL story. If you don't like BL stuff, please leave. Our first main lead gave him his shirt and said, "You can use the bathroom. Just don't get the whole place wet." Then he was waiting for our second male lead, and when he came out, he was looking really hot. And he said, "No, your shirt seems a little too big for me." He was flirting with our first main lead, but our first main lead start folding his sleeve and said, "Just roll up your sleeves if it's too big, like this. You should have learned this in kindergarten. Why are kids so pampered these days? You look so much better now." Then he continues by saying, "I have work tomorrow. I don't have time for you. I got you a blanket. There's a cushion on the sofa over there too. I'm going to bed. Sort yourself out." When he was sleeping, he felt something. He opened his eyes and thinks, what's going on? He saw someone in his blanket. He removed his blanket and said, "Come out." And our second main lead, in a flirty way, said, "Hey, you got me. It's so cold on the sofa. Let me sleep here, please. Besides, you want to be rewarded by me, right?" But our first main lead yelled and said, "You're crazy. Who wants that? Get out of here." And start kicking our second main lead. He fall and roll towards sofa. Then his wig was falling. He hold his hair and said, "That was too much, you old geezer." But our first main lead said, "I can't be bothered with you. I'll throw you out if you climb into my bed again." And our second main lead said, "What?" And sorry, I still don't know their name. But then his phone start vibrating. When he read his texts, he said, "Oh no, I forgot that I have class tomorrow." Then he got ready to leave and said I should head back and change my clothes. But when he was leaving, he dropped something. Then our first main lead woke up and he saw something. He picked that up. It was our second main lead's student ID. So our second main lead's name is Wang Guodong. But I'm really shocked that he's only in grade 10. Really? He's just a kid. Out first main lead is really older than him. In front of Wang's school, he was searching for his student ID. His friend noticed that and said, "Did you lose your student ID again? You're always losing things." She gave him her ID and said, "Take this." He smiled and said, "Thank you, Mrs. Banana." She yelled and said, "Don't you dare call me by my ID name at school again." But he already ran away. After some time school was over, Wang was going in his home, talking to himself saying the new DLC has been released. But when he entered in his house, he saw our first main lead was sitting with his relative. His relative asked, "Why did you get home so late? Also, look at yourself. You lost something again." Luckily, Teacher Lee sent it back. You should thank him. But Wang asked, "Why are you at my house?" His relative stood up and said, "Oh, you should have a chat with Teacher Lee. I'm going home to prepare a meal for your aunt." When he left, Wang asked, "What exactly do you want?" And Lee said, "I can return your student ID to you." Then Lee pinned Wang to the wall and said, "But I have one condition." Wang started blushing and asked what condition. Lee pulled out his result paper and said, "Stop going out at night. Focus on studying. Look at your monthly exam results. You can't even score well on such basic knowledge." Then Wang yelled and said, "Who do you think you are to comment on my exam results? Give me back my paper. Don't act like you know everything." Then Lee said, "All I know is that anyone who only manages to score 80 out of 150 on this test has some issues with their capability. As for someone who scored 60 out of 150, the person must have some serious problems. Here's your student ID." Wang twisted his result paper and said, "You're crazy. You should try taking the test then," and walk out of his house. Then he was out with his friend and was talking about Lee. He said, "He's driving me mad. Is that guy crazy?" Then his friend said, "Nobody told you to heedlessly turn up at a location posted by a stranger on the internet. You're lucky that you weren't caught and sold to Thailand." But something took Wang's attention. It was a poster of Lee. He yelled, "That's him."